You're watching Drake Wing Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wing Gaming, and some of you on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with a Let's Play episode of A Fall from Grace. Anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alrighty. Considering how easy it was to sneak my way into one of these so-called private events, they might as well have been public. Oh, wrong voice for Dion. Do that again. Considering how easy it was to sneak my way into one of these so-called events, they might as well have been public. Trying to hold the reins of this conversation was proving to be harder work than Cedric had expected. Now, these events are what one might refer to as a figurative leveler of society. That sounds contagious. And after Mark, my dear, anyone could be hiding under a disguise, from a prince to a plowman. A public masquerade ball is where the rigid rules of polite society go to die, where every person is at last completely equal. Cedric paused. Not to get too political, but that's a truly unnerving thought for the ruling class. Speaking of, do you remember hearing talk of protests against these events a couple years ago? Dion crosses his arms, tilting his head and rolling his eyes. Aye, it was the latest moral panic conservatives had to come up with at the time. What an absolute farce. Masquerade balls were accused of encouraging all sorts of degeneracy, immorality, effeminacy, sexual transgression, sodomy, adultery, and prostitution. The others were all laughing by the time Cedric reached the end of the list. Sounds like my idea of a good time. Are they really that intense? You have no idea, Vic. I used to be an innocent young lad before masquerade balls turned me into a whore. Hollis cleared his throat, bringing everyone's attention back to the subject at hand. Alright, Hollis's voice. What you're saying is, we don't need to learn any stuffy rules after all. You rogues wish it were that simple. We are dealing with a public event, yes, but that's one that's hosted by a rich family in an opulent manor house. Despite being guaranteed anonymity, it would be best for us to still be mindful of etiquette. Thus, if someone greets you, be sure to return their words with a bow. To demonstrate what he was talking about, the coyote performed an elegant bow in his lover's direction. I suggest you all practice this. The more graceful, the better. If you require adjustments to your bow, I'm more than happy to give finer tips. Though, I have serious doubts any of you will have much trouble bending at the waist. The bandits all wore their own variations of fake shock to this call-out. Naturally, standard formal introductions aren't required, since anonymity is expected. The most common way you'll greet someone and begin a conversation at a masquerade ball is by saying, "Do I know you?" A brief moment of silence followed. Cedric knew exactly what each of the others was thinking of saying next. How the fuck are you supposed to reply to that? It was a ridiculous greeting, he had to admit. However you like. Most people tend to keep things vague or drop a couple hints about themselves. Others have fun getting into character and giving entirely made-up answers. There are no rules in this case. Other than don't be a dick, I suppose. Though I've definitely met plenty of dicks at these events. Whore. I am going to flog you. Dion chuckled. Vic, behave yourself. As for food, in private events like this one, dinner is served in the dining room around midnight. However, since it looks like attendance tomorrow evening will be huge, I don't think food is going to be served at a specific time or in a specific room. Rather, we'll almost certainly be offered some refreshments through the evening. This part is crucial to remember. Do not, I repeat, do not carry food into the ballroom. Absolute rookie mistake. You'd instantly out yourselves as members of the lower classes. Make sure you only eat in the dining room, or any room you can see food displayed in. Is that clear? Each of the others gave an eye. What's likely to be served food-wise? I was just about to ask that myself. That tends to vary a great deal, though usually we're talking cold food. Chicken, fowl, lamb, lobster, and eel are likely to be the main event. Bit of a tangent, but the lamb our household cook used to prepare for big events was the most delicious thing 8-year-old me had ever tasted. Can confirm, I stole a piece of it every single time. Cedric spared a glance toward Selwyn, notebook open and jotting everything down. From the angle he was standing, he was pretty sure the cat had written the underline, "Go for the lamb." Anyhow, later in the evening you might be offered some tarts or ices as a dessert. As for drink, we're talking claret, port, Lisbon. Fucking hell, we're in for a treat! Dion shot the tiger a slightly concerned, if not outright judgmental look. I know it's all very tempting, but not getting pissed on the job. No getting pissed on the job, lads. Hollis crossed his arms. Of course not. Trust each of us knows how to be a responsible fellow. But if any of you find where they're keeping the liquor, steal a bottle or 12 for me. Oh, question. Will we all be wearing gloves? What the hell? Ridley sneered, having picked up on what was being hinted at. Certainly, yes. Never be seen without gloves in a ballroom. That's how the saying goes. Ah, so if we took them off, would everyone in the room just evaporate? I fucking wish. Lastly, dancing. I trust each of us knows how to dance? A series of prolonged vowels, meaning more or less, were uttered in response. I'm not expecting anything particularly impressive. As long as you can keep up with a minuet or a polka, you're good to go. If anyone wants to practice some steps, I could borrow Hollis's lute and play something. That sounds delightful. I'll go fetch her for you. Once he was done tuning the instrument, Cedric began to pluck its strings, playing an old tune he'd learned many years before. His technique was rusty, to say the least, but he somehow made it through, and, most importantly, managed to keep a regular tempo for the others to practice their steps, 2 at a time. Dion and Victor went first. It only took them a minute or so before they'd gotten confidence in their movements. His lover's skillful and calculated steps were almost entrancing, seductively luring his gaze in and filling him with pride along the way. The fox had a tendency to scoff at pastimes like these, simply because he viewed them as belonging to the elite, but Cedric had always considered him a gifted dancer, and he knew that beneath the act, Victor enjoyed it as much as he did. He'd first taught some steps during one of those long summer afternoons in their early adolescence. He could still vividly recall every detail, holding his friend close, losing himself in his eyes as they moved as one in the dancing sunlight beneath that huge willow shade. Back then it was just a game like any other, yet now the memory was filled with deeper meaning. What would young Cedric think if he knew what life had in store for them both? As much as he dreamed and talked about the future and beginning his life anew, the lure of the past remained strong within his thoughts. What if he'd managed to change his father's mind? What if young Victor and his family had been able to keep living with them? The promise he'd once made of sharing his home with his best friend wouldn't just be a bunch of empty words. They could have both owned the place, lived a life of luxury and ease together. No, a load of nonsense. He hadn't missed out on making the most important choice of his life when the opportunity had presented itself. He'd chosen to follow Victor into the unknown. That's what mattered. He'd gotten to know the man he loved and had built a strong and healthy relationship with. He'd met the people he was now honored to call his friends and comrades. He'd chosen community over isolation. And he'd matured in the past 9 months, exceeding even his wildest expectations. The only reason for this sudden wave of self-doubt came from that other looming masquerade ball. It felt like the 2 separate lives he'd been living, as a nobleman and as a bandit, were colliding, and it wasn't pleasant. So many doubts and fears he'd thought he'd left behind were resurfacing, their roots sinking into his flesh, keeping him anchored to the ground, reminding him of all the bad choices he made. Part of him wanted to burn that whole building to the ground. But for the time being, and for his sanity's sake, he just kept telling himself it would all go smoothly and according to plan. That it was no big deal. Hey, Ced? Cedric turned his attention to his lover, still idly playing as he was lost in his thoughts the past few minutes. Yes, my love? Can we stop dancing now? Soon the bandits had finished practicing their dancing and bows, and were told to make their way to Ridley's tent one at a time, so that each of them could try on the costumes Cedric had purchased in town the day before. As for the coyote, he made himself comfortable on some large rocks a couple feet away with a chess set he picked up from Dion's tent on his lap. Victor had been more than happy to join. This wasn't a serious match, since neither of them played the game in absolute ages. Their attempts at remembering the rules as they went on led to a series of humorous mistakes, which only made things more entertaining. There was no pressure. They knew they'd have time for a longer and better thought-out game in the future. Victor still carried a decent amount of guilt for having lost the white knight piece he'd been gifted at the start of their journey, despite Cedric's reassurance that it was really not a big deal the moment he brought it up again. What does it even mind to begin with? I nicked it from Lysander's place. That only made it more special. It symbolized you giving him the middle finger he deserved. I must have lost it during that first robbery of ours. That's the only explanation I can think of. I noticed I couldn't find it when spending our first night in the old camp. I'll think of a good replacement for it, I promise. There's no need to, my love. Well, I like it all the same. You told me you'd love to have something of mine to hold on to. I haven't forgotten that. Cedric! Hollis had emerged from Ridley's tent, followed by the bear. Stop fucking Vic and get over here. You're up next. Upon entering, Cedric could already see his costume lying on the bed. A richly decorated shirt, a pair of hose, boots, and gloves, a fancy-looking feathered hat, and most important of all, a mask with canine features, all of them a vibrant shade of green. Each of these was almost completely monochrome had it not been for some subtle pink and gold patterns and designs, which gave the whole costume an air of great elegance. Can I offer you something? I have some tobacco to chew on if you'd like. I'm fine, thanks. Maybe after dinner. The bear sank into his chair and crossed his legs. But it feels strange getting ready for a ball after all this time. Cedric grinned as he began to unbutton his waistcoat, not without a hint of melancholy. Yes, I suppose it does. I was never as nervous about attending one as I am now, that's for sure. He bent forward to pick up the mask with his left hand. We'll be coyotes tomorrow evening in your honor. So we're all going to be wearing these? Aye, just different colors for each of us. I thought using our regular masks would be a little too risky in this case. But I don't want us to look too similar either. If we all wore the same outfit and one of us got caught, we'd be done for in no time. Wearing the same mask is a good middle ground, I'd say. We'd be able to spot each other easily, whilst other guests or guards would have a much harder time. Having donned the new vest, hose, and boots, Cedric wrapped the shirt around his torso. Does everything fit? Perfectly. Oh, actually, I think the sleeves might be just a tad too long. Let me have a look. Ridley picked up a pencil and his paper tape, resting it on the side of the coyote's arm. I really got lucky, running into a gang of bandits named the Masquerade, didn't I? Whatever do you mean? You could have just been any old rogues, but you lads went the extra mile. The sun bearer gave a little amused snort as he made a mark on the tape, indicating how much fabric he would have to cut. There's just something fun about dressing up, don't you think? Putting on a performance, as Dion always says. It's something I've always enjoyed. I remember my first time at a masked ball, back when I worked at old Wesley's as his assistant tailor. I was always on the lookout for leftover fabrics which I used to make my own outfits and costumes. The result was nothing too elaborate, but fucking hell. I felt like I could conquer the world once I saw it all coming together. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon or YouTube memberships if you can. It always helps. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!